picture of her in some kind of dress, I believe it was. And the caption was, "This is what Janelle Monáe looks like when she's not dressed like a Monopoly man." And all the replies were just talking about how good she looked. I'm gonna download her next album right away, and that kind of was the energy.
Mm-hmm.
And Janelle Monáe replied to that saying, "I'm never coming back outside." So, good afternoon, beautiful people. This is another episode of Album Mode. My name is Adriel Smiley, aka AdrielSmiley.com, aka Adriel Smiley Official, aka The Godfather, and we are here with His Royal Highness King Grant.
What's happening, people? We're back in our original forms. Okay, two boxes, opposite rooms. We're back. We're here doing Janelle Monáe's "The Age of Pleasure." The Age of Pleasure, the opposite of the. I feel like that's almost like opposite of Dirty Computer. But if you actually
That's
listen to the
fact.
lyrics, and if you listen to the lyrics, maybe not so much.
Mm-hmm,
Maybe
mm-hmm.
not so much. But yeah, she's back. She's been on, I want to say Janelle Monáe been on a little bit of a social media streak, and she's
That's
back
a good way to put
here.
it.
Yeah. Which I you know what? I never really considered her a big social media person.
Mm-hmm.
But after seeing some Twitter videos, I'm like, wow, Janelle Monáe, she's out here. Out here more than
Mm-hmm.
I thought she would
Mm-hmm.
ever be personally.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't see it coming her being out here like that. Um, two things I want to highlight from the past little time with Janelle Monáe. There's that video I think of her flashing someone at a party.
Hmm.
That was really viral moment for her. Not what people expect from Janelle Monáe. And then I believe it was the Met Gala. I know the picture before that, but there's a picture of her in some kind of dress, I believe it was. And the caption was, "This is what Janelle Monáe looks like when she's not dressed like a Monopoly man." And all the replies were just talking about how good she looked. I'm gonna download her next album right away, and that kind of was the energy.
Hmm.
And Janelle Monáe replied to that saying, "I'm never coming back outside." So we see she's interacting with the internet. She's seeing a dialogue going on about her, and I think that's a good place to start because that's part of her perception. She has been for a long time wearing these, let's call them what they are, Monopoly Man suits, making great music in them, but making the music she's making in this pantsuit definitely sets her apart from her other contemporaries.
Hmm.
And I think it kind of helps people know her for her music, which is what she's known for a lot. She had this quote that she said a little while ago that she is the definition of sex sells. And I
Hmm.
think it's funny she said that talking about this upcoming project because this is, a different tone from her, at least visually. I think musically there are some things that are similar to how she's been in the past, but I think visually is what's different about this album, and I think that's why I want to tie into the music. Now she went on with Zane Lowe on Apple Music, and she said all the songs were written from such an honest space. So I hope that people feel that when they listen to the music, that they feel that when they come out, counter with me when I'm around. I definitely have had an opportunity to evolve and grow and tap into the things that bring me pleasure, things that perhaps I should rethink and rework. So this is her, I think, coming into her own in a whole different way because we're gonna talk about it on sound bites. A lot of artists have an interesting relationship with the internet, and Janelle Monáe is definitely an example of that. And so I just think this is such an interesting project for her. Obviously not her first offering. This is her, I think, fourth studio album, first in 2018, Dirty Computer,
Hmm.
but it's just a new space for Janelle Monáe.
Yeah. Prior to this, Janelle Monáe has existed to me as like the person in the suit that drops like awesome music, but she's always in the suit. Um, so leading up to this project, the album that the Age of Pleasure. First of all, I didn't realize that there was like it was coming out. I thought she was just like having sometimes people just have like a moment,
Yeah.
like on the internet. Like sometimes people are just like, yo, did you see, like, for example, did you see Drake said he's like leaving Toronto, right? And that becomes like a whole internet story for like a day.
Mm-hmm.
So like Janelle Monáe is like, did you see the viral video of Janelle Monáe flashing people on Twitter? I was like, wow, that's crazy. Right. And then I was like, oh, there's a lead up. There's a reason why. There's a reason why the girls are out. Right. Like an actual reason, like for real though, to help promote the album. So that's what I've been, I feel like I do feel like it set the tone for the album 1,000%. But it was very interesting to see her basically come out of the shell, I guess out of the pantsuit, because I thought she was I thought she was very I thought she was very strictly an artist who is like, no, it's only my music. You're only gonna judge what I do based on my music. And the aesthetic will be about like the clothes that I wear. Like, you know what I mean? Like, for example, like Billie Eilish, low key is like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Up until very, very recently, part of the reason why she wore super baggy clothes is like she didn't want anybody commenting on her body at all. Like
Mm-hmm.
my fashion sense, which was cool. Everybody loves Billie Eilish's fashion sense. If you don't, that's a you problem. But her music is pretty much just like judged and based on like her vocal performance, production, and stuff like that. Like her physical appearance is not that major part of like her artistry, other than like her hair. So I'd
Mm-hmm.
like Janelle Monáe was like similar in that way, right? So that's why when all this was happening, I was like, this is a little bit of a dialogue shifter. And then when you listen to The Age of Pleasure, I feel like it's even like a production shift, like a stylistic shift. I felt like everything got shifted and she's moving into a completely different space now.
I would say it's a sexier space.
Yeah.
Let's just say it bluntly. And I do think that that is something that we've seen a lot over this past year. We talked about it at the beginning of the year with Lil Yachty and his project, kind of changing the way he was being viewed. Jack Harlow with Jackman, he wanted to change the way he was being viewed. And I think this project falls in that same space. Age of Pleasure, trying to change the way that she's being viewed.
Mm-hmm.
Float was the first single in February. And I'd actually been playing Float on my radio show when I completely forgot that she had a single out. Like you said, I didn't see this coming out. It felt like a Lucy to me. So forgot that
Mm-hmm.
there was even a lead single. But there's a few things on this project that I want to highlight production wise. First and foremost, one of my first notes when I started writing down some things about this project was I feel like it's the lack of edge. And I want to
Okay.
get back to that a few times, but there's a lot of good stuff in this project, but it doesn't feel like it has that edge. And that edge, I say something that Summer Walker has on some of her songs. Ari Lennox has a bit of that. SZA has a bit of that as well. Now, Janelle Monáe is no longer wearing the Monopoly Man suit,
Mm-hmm.
but she's always been the clean cut kind of R&B artist. Her and her had been those two. But Champagne shit,
Mm-hmm.
those horns, definitely triumphant. I like that Black Sugar Beach is kind of the Afrobeat outro of Champagne shit. So we get kind of a double dose of Champagne shit.
Yeah.
But Champagne shit is the song to me that for sure I like it a lot. It gives that energy. It's very triumphant, but it gives me, Toyota commercial vibes.
Oh,
It gives me L'Oreal commercial vibes. And I think of other songs that have that those horns and that triumphant feel. This feels like I don't want to say the kids bop version of that song, but the safe version of that song. So I do like it a lot, but it's kind of like the watered down version. You ordered a drink and a little bit too much ice in the drink. Still a good drink, but a little bit too much ice in it.
wow. I am genuinely surprised by that because I think I liked Champagne shit a lot. Um, I guess I like the horns more than you do. I think when I listen to this entire thing, or especially Champagne shit, I thought that is like almost like a skateboard song. Like I feel like if like the latest skate came
Okay,
out,
I can see that.
if the latest skate came out, I feel like this would be on it actually, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that the watered down. Wow, I'm just surprised by that because I think that I get where you're coming from with it being like a almost like a diet version or like a commercialized song.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't I didn't. It didn't feel like it was going in that direction to me. Maybe I'm like, maybe I like the horns more than you, and I think
Hmm.
the horns give it a little bit more edge. When you say it was edgeless, the entire project is edgeless. I think it kind of is, but purposefully. Like I
Yeah,
think
for sure.
yeah, I think a lot of the songs flow together. And also there's this reggae influence that's all over it. I mean,
All over, yeah.
and part of reggae is for the music to be like really smooth, danceable, right? Easy listening. So that's why I'm like, yeah, I get this lack of edge, but I think the edgelessness is on purpose. Like when you have a song like Water Slide, which I think is basically, I mean, first of all, shout out to Sister Nancy, who is that song Bam Bam is actually just one of the most influential songs in the history of music, I think. There's so many different ways, so many different songs, so many different everything that song has been flipped that she is still relevant. I don't know, that probably came out in like the 60s or 70s or something like that.
Hmm.
And somebody years and years into the future still playing it. I mean, remember Jay-Z had it on 444. That was part of his album too. That's same song. Like he split that sample. So I think that the horns on Water Slide as well. I'm like, it gives me the like the reggae rhythm that I feel like she's going for that purposefully.
Hmm.
So I
I
like the
think
horns. Okay, I like the horns. You don't like the horns, it's okay. I like the horns. I can like the horns by myself.
no, I actually love the horns. I just think that this album has some places that it can play where I think it won't. And
Mm,
that's what made me think about Champagne Shit. Is Champagne Shit is a song that should go up in the club. Like a Trophies, like other songs that have those horns, All I Do Is Win. And
mm-hmm.
I just didn't feel that quality where I'm like, this doesn't seem like the song that will play in certain functions. When production wise, it really should. I think
You
that
don't think?
they're that
Go ahead.
no go ahead.
You don't think that this is like a barbecue type of album? Like this is like I feel when I listen to this, I'm like, this is
Hmm.
what our barbecues are gonna sound like. Like
You know what?
like all this the music that she's referencing to, like only
Hmm.
42 eyes. You know that song Loser, right? That old
Hmm.
reggae song Loser. I've heard that a million times at my family's barbecues, right? And then she's reflipping it, right, into this again a reggae song, and it's basically another reggae song, but the vocals
Yeah.
are modernized, right? And I think it's almost like reprising my childhood because I am Jamaican. For listeners that are somehow not aware of me being Jamaican, I am a Jamaican person.
This is a Jamaican only podcast. Okay, we're gonna get some Jamaican vice over here.
Yeah, I just felt like, oh, she's just taking like my childhood and like repurposing it and adding new vocals to it. So that's why I was like, oh,
Mhm.
it still sounded good. The horn still makes sense to me in that sense. It just felt like, okay, let's make it just a 2023 version of Loser, 2023 version of Bam Bam. Like that's what I felt when it came to the production.
You know what I think? I think this is something we have to revisit. And I think my assumption, and maybe I'm being premature in this, is
Mm-hmm.
that these won't play. I think that these should,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like they won't because I think the production on its own, you would probably play some of these, or you would say
Mm-hmm.
these are a perfect fit to go in that barbecue playlist,
Mm-hmm.
that park playlist. And I think my assumption is that they won't, and that edgeless quality of them may leave them out. But you're right. I may be wrong here. Maybe I'm overthinking it, and these will absolutely get played. I like that you
Mm-hmm.
brought the reggae because that's something I had in my notes as well. That her really tapping into her reggae. I never ever thought reggae when I thought Janelle Monáe.
Me neither.
And maybe this whole time she's been leaving gems that she's a reggae head and
Mm-hmm.
we didn't know about it. But you tell me, am I missing something? Because I never thought reggae when I thought Janelle Monáe. Lipstick Lover is another one of those
Mm-hmm.
like that has that reggae feel. And I think too that she is so versatile as a performer, that she doesn't have to sing in a reggae style necessarily. You
Yep.
said before that it's like a modern flip of some of these reggae classics. And I think that's a perfect way to put it because her vocal style isn't as much reggae. She doesn't have that huge baritone. She's not dragging her voice as much. So I think that she does a good job of blending the two of, vocally, this is still modern. This is still happening right now. It doesn't sound dated, but the influences of the reggae, I think, it really brings that old school style. And I can't
Mm-hmm.
think of anyone else in her space really doing that. We've seen people really trying to adopt Afro beats. People adopting dancehall had its time. But are we seeing people really adapt that reggae production that we're seeing here? Because I don't remember seeing that anywhere else.
Yeah, not really. The only thing that I can really like ascribe this to or like draw like an allusion to is like Coffee, right? Where her music, I'm like, if Coffee, I don't know if Janelle Monáe is probably aware that Coffee exists. I would assume, especially since she's
Yes.
making reggae music. I think that Coffee would have fit like almost perfectly on even a song like Hot. I think
Hmm.
she would have fit perfectly. Again, it's got like the reggae horns. It's a little bit faster, but if you go from like the transition from Hot to Ooh La La, there's like such an obvious like through line from like hip hop, R&B, and reggae, like that it's like a seamless transition, right? And I
Hmm.
think that Hot is like right on the border of hip hop and reggae. That song, and I think that it works. I feel like it works. Maybe it works for me. Maybe I'm just not as entrenched in
Hmm.
my reggae stylings. I don't listen to that much reggae, to my dad's chagrin, who is like a huge reggae head. um, but I'm like, oh, it's just for me. I'm like, oh, it's just enough. It's like a nice tinge of the childhood with modern music. This feels so good to me. And I bet you, like people who are really into reggae, they're like, this is sacrilege. How dare you? How dare you? It's like it's not even that good. Like, why would you even like leave the legendary songs alone? Why would you ever do that? But I don't know. To me, I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, this is nice, bro. This is pretty sweet.
I think, this is one of my last production notes, but I think what she does really well is writing that line between hip hop and reggae, like you
Yeah.
said, without actually stepping into dancehall, because dancehall is, kind of the combination of the hip hop and
Mm-hmm.
reggae stylings. And she basically never stepped into dancehall on this project. There's no beat on here, no production on here where
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's dancehall. But there's a time you said on a hot where it feels like a great blend of hip hop and reggae. So I think that's pretty interesting because we talked about this being more of a sexier time for
Mm-hmm.
Janelle Monáe. I think all the dancehall fans out there would agree with me that dancehall music can be sexy. But I
Mm-hmm.
think she really told that line because I think what you said earlier about maybe the reggae fans are here saying what you're saying is sacrilege. And how could you like this watered down reggae? Those reggae fans could be out there, and I think that would be more apparent if she had tried to do dancehall. I
Right.
think dancehall is one of those things where either you're in it or you're not. And I think that was a great choice on her part to step, not even get involved. This I'm all the way with the reggae and the hip hop, but dancehall, you can miss me.
Well, I was gonna ask, we didn't even talk about the features. Do you have like a favorite feature or anything like that?
Yes.
We didn't even mention the features, and she has a good amount of them, like Doichi. She has Egypt 80. Yeah.
I think for me the favorite would probably be Amare.
Mm-hmm.
Dochi was the one that I was excited about because I'm a huge Dochi fan. So since I got Dochi on here, I was like, yo, let's get it. But Amare was the one on the rush where I was like, okay, that did something. So that was my favorite feature. I think Janelle Monáe has a thing where she definitely does not need the features. And up until this point, all the features that I've seen her do or have people come on her stuff, it elevates it. It helps
Mm-hmm.
out the song. It actually adds to it. And this album is not any different. But my favorite, I would say, is Amari on the Rush.
I'm trying to think. I think the Doichi sent I think her on Phenomenal was like just like a great way for that song to be switched up, but it still have like that authoritative voice with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like Janelle is doing a lot of lifting when it comes to how bold everything sounds, and for her to at least like have like a little bit of a step back and her focus more on like the more of the chorus in that track, I think is awesome. Um, but I think a lot of the features are also kind of seamless. Like if you are not super listening to who is on each track, you can kind of it can almost kind of just sound like it's just straight her. um
100%, 100%.
yeah, so that also I would say is a huge plus because it never feels like somebody is jumping outside of their jumping outside of her thing and jumping in and doing something
Hmm.
and then jumping out. It always sounds like we're all existing in that one space, and she is kind of just like it's like a prism, and she was showing another angle from the prism, but it's still the same world inside of it. So yeah, I think the features are really good. The features are really good. I think it'll be like a kind of an underrated part of this entire project.
The song that I think is I'm gonna always remember from this project, even if it's not one of the best ones, is A
Mm-hmm.
Dry Red. I think
Oh yeah.
A Dry Red is just a whole different vibe and energy. And that might be the sexiest actual song on this project, production wise. So that slow tone, the slower drums, um, and as well, it's like what she's singing on top of that. We'll talk about it a bit lyrics, but
Mm-hmm.
a dry red is definitely more like Janelle Monáe, I see you in your bag. So a dry red, I think, is one of the biggest flexes that she has on here.
Yeah, I think that that also translates to a song like Phenomenal, which is like at the very top. I think it's the second song.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that I think that sets the tone of like this entire album, the Age of Pleasure is like like we're trying to dance, we're feeling ourselves carefree, right? And I think like a lot of the songs are reinforcing that. And for we're talking about like the reggae influence, hip hop influence. For her to like tap into like even Ama Piano, I think was really interesting because I
Mm-hmm.
again she is I would say she is an experimental R&B artist in some ways. And I think that her like grabbing from these different places is really interesting because they're all I would say all in conversation with themselves, right? I mean, there's all black people making this music, right? And they all draw influence from each other. But to hear her really grab from that was really interesting to me. I think that also the strings on it were really good. Also, like it joined like this jazzness to the R&B. Like there's just like a lot of elements, but a lot of very black elements. Like her music is super black,
Mm-hmm.
super
Mm-hmm.
black, and not in an explicit way. It's more of a in a referential way. Like if you just understand where all of the production elements are coming from, you're like, oh, this is just like we're talking about West African, South African, Caribbean, talking about North American like black people, like just a lot of different blackness joining up in her music. And in the lyrics, it's a little bit, I mean, I want to say it doesn't draw from those spaces. I think it draws from within,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then
Mm-hmm.
she's just trying to show out. So that's a fun space too. I think that's probably one of the more fun parts of of the Age of Pleasure is like actually the lyrics is pretty fun.
I think I have a feeling that most people don't know Janelle Monáe for her fun lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
This is not our first time with some fun lyrics. Obviously, this album is called The Age of Pleasure. We said at the top it's a sexier album. So, sexy time is going to equal a lot more fun lyrics. But I think that's a big part of what her music has been sometimes light and fun. And she brings that back here now. One of my favorite songs on here, I mentioned it earlier, Lipstick Lover.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think this is not going to go unnoticed on this project, and it's going to be reflected in my score. She does a great job of that. We've had other albums we reviewed where the artist is getting a bit sexy. We talked about Ari Lennox. Who else have we talked about? I think has been a bit sexy. A couple of male rappers have had some sexual lines in their music,
Yeah. Summer
and
Walker.
Summer Walker. We talked about Snoop on the
Yeah.
K project. She
We
is not. Yeah, she you didn't see that coming. Sensual seduction, but she's not gonna go unnoticed. I think that's something I've noticed a lot is sometimes artists can be very sexual and it can go over people's heads.
mm-hmm.
And it's like you're just enjoying the music, enjoying the production. On Lipstick Lover, there is absolutely no way that's gonna be the case. She says, "Oh, you talking nasty, and I like it. Whisper in my ear, only me and you can hear. I see it from the back and I'm excited. Tell me what you do when we walk up in the room. Hope it's something nasty. We can try it. Bite me on my neck and you know what's coming next. We can make a movie. I can write it. Let's just make a movie, baby. That right there, there is no questions. No questions about what she's talking about. Twice in that section, she talks about talking nasty and then actually doing
Doing
something
that.
nasty.
Yeah.
It doesn't get more specific than that. It's like she's looking for both the talk and the action. And the part I want to highlight is she says, we can make a movie, I can write it, because that's not the only time when this project talks about making a movie. On
Mm-hmm.
the chorus in Dry Red, she reiterates, now, baby, I'm choosy, but me and you fucking that jacuzzi, we can make a scene, or better yet, we can make a movie. Listen, Janelle Monáe's iCloud has some movies in it. I'm telling you, if you're believing the lyrics, that's what we're hearing. So I think that theme going forward kind of adds as being more of a sexy album, because asking for the nasty talk, asking for the nasty actions is one thing, but to over and over again say, let's make a movie. I think that's pretty explicit. I think about that line that Kanye had
Mm-hmm.
on Like Pablo, where he says, then me and wifey make a movie. And obviously like a Kim Kardashian, so you understand what he's saying. But
Mm-hmm.
the idea of let's make a movie is kind of a new way of saying let's get busy. And so I think it's pretty cool that Janelle Monáe is really bringing it back to the roots in a sense.
Yeah, I think that I think I was not prepared for how sensual and sexual and confident she's coming across. Extremely confident, which I appreciate. I
Mm-hmm.
think it definitely reinforces the production. Like, I feel like it makes the songs on a lot of the songs. Um, like on a song like Phenomenal, I mean, when she's like, uh, let's do verse one, caught, or actually at the very beginning, she's like, I'm looking at 1,000 versions of myself and we're all fine as fuck. Say it to my face, bitch. Say it to my face. Say it, right? Caught up in your trance, they get so nervous, they just want to taste what you're serving. Can I get a taste? Pussy purring. What you're serving? Now what you serving, sexy girl? Yo, see what I'm saying? Like, confidence is like, yo, I'm looking at I'm looking at 1,000 versions of myself. I feel great out here. What's everybody? What is everybody doing? And how can I get at it? Like, I feel like her, it's a little bit funny. Just because I think it also like gets really stamped home because you consider like what she was looking like and what she was doing before. Then for her to be like coming out like she just came out of the shell and she's like, yo, what's happening? Like, what's going on? Like, where the bitches at? That's that like, I've heard that so many times in my life from dudes or
Mm-hmm.
even just like in videos. It's like, yo, where the girls at, bro? What's going on out here? I'm like, I'm feeling great. He's like, 5 drinks deep. It's like holding the ball to rock. Where's everybody at? And I think that it's like a song like Phenomenal is it's kind of like an anthem for that. It's like, I'm feeling phenomenal. Like, what's happening outside, And I think that it's funny, but also extremely confident and like something that I really, really appreciate when it's layered over top of the production. There's just like this boldness to everything that is happening. Right. That's why I was kind of like taken aback when you said it's edgeless. I'm like, what are we talking about? What do you mean there's no edge? The edge is here. You got to look at the lyrics. But what's also funny is that the lyrics, I would say, are not extremely dense. Like, I think
No.
a lot of the songs have like very, very little lyrics, or they're just not complex. Like Water Slide. If you looked at like
Mm-hmm.
the lyric sheet for a Water Slide is very sparse, extremely sparse. One of the best songs though. One of the best songs. So I think that sometimes we talk about when we come to lyrics, we talk about sometimes simplicity, right, is better than density, right? Like, you can be
Mm-hmm.
like, I always bring this up. Somebody like Playboy Cardi, his music can sound phenomenal, and you look at the lyric sheet, and it's like literally like 5 to 6 words per line. but you listen to the song and you can get the emotion out of it and stuff like that. And I feel like Janelle Monáe is tapping into that a little bit. I think that, you know, it doesn't have to be deep to move you. And I feel like a lot of the songs want you to dance anyways. So
Mhm.
density in the lyrics is just not gonna play as well as simple messages, but very fun and funny. Some of the lyrics are funny. Lyrics, you know, I think it plays to the strength of the production.
Yeah, I think she does a good job with that. You talked about me mentioning that it was edgeless, even though
Yeah.
she's being so bold. That's a good point. I have to give her credit for being bold on this project. Like she is being straightforward with a lot of these. You know, you saying where the bitches at? There's a lot of where the bitches at
That's what I'm
on
saying.
the. There's a lot of where the bitches at on this. But I think one thing is this is like some of these songs don't always have the where the bitches at energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Phenomenal is one of those that do. Phenomenal, I think, is the best song on this project personally. I
Mm-hmm.
think Phenomenal will be the one that ages the best and kind of reaches out far past what the Age of Pleasure does as a full body of work. But you brought up a great point. She is extremely bold on this project. Do you have any other lyrics that you want to highlight?
Yeah, I think I want to bring up Water Slide, which I think is my favorite song. Um, this sexual analogy, I mean, is probably one of the I don't want to say best, funny, like I don't know what it is, but I love it. Is this idea of we've heard it a million times from dudes swimming in the pussy, okay? But she's taking it to the nth degree, okay? She's like, this is in the pre-chorus. Backstroke, freestyle, surfing on that thing like it's high tide, deep stroke, butterfly, lazy river running down the water slide. Baby, dive in because the water feels fine, feeling this high vibration. Slipping down the water slide. Now it's time for me to backstroke, freestyle. Like, yo, that's crazy, bro. Like, it's again, it's funny. The imagery is great, right? I think it hides the
Yes.
message. If you don't catch the very first at the very top of the song,
Mm-hmm.
it just sounds like like swimming, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're here at the pleasure of reading the lyrics as we were listening to everything that's happening, and we're like, oh, well, hold on a second, wait a second. So I think that song is another one where, again, it's just like tons of fun. It's funny. The analogy is good. The vocal performance is
Mm-hmm.
incredible. I think her vocal performance is really amazing. Very breathy. Um, it's awesome. So I think I don't know. I think I like it a lot. I like the lyrics a lot, even though that is not super
Mm-hmm.
deep.
Yeah, I think this song, especially Water Slide,
Yeah.
doesn't scream Monopoly Man suit, I would say. So I think that you had a kind of poignant track on Age of Pleasure because this is an example of kind of the visual change
Yeah.
she's making. I do want to talk a bit about the album cover before we talk about her career.
Hmm.
This album
That
cover
song
is
is
from
like straight to the album cover. That song is the album cover.
no, it's something else because um it look from what I can see, it looks like Janelle Monáe swimming between the legs
Hmm.
of three people, and there's like stairs behind them underwater. I think that this cover actually does it justice.
Yeah.
The project, and somehow it fits because this is I think the power of art where somehow her underwater in this weird Congo line type of thing somehow means Age of Pleasure. But
Hmm.
I do get it. Like it does make sense. And so, I think that an album this sexual, this overtly sexual, like the song you just talked about with every stroke in the book is called Water Slide, you know. So it's like we're stacking one nasty thing on top of another nasty thing divided
Hmm.
by another nasty thing. Um and then to have the album cover have her be underwater when
Hmm.
if you think of every reference to something wet in this album, it really does add up. So big shout out to Janelle Monáe for kind of doing the math on that because I think the sound as well does match what the color of the cover is because it is kind of that like light summery feel. And the sun is not directly in the cover,
Hmm.
but you can kind of tell that the sun is really shining just from how they've done it in the water.
Yeah, I think the cover is phenomenal. I also like the wavy text. Like it's really selling it.
Mm,
I feel like everything is really selling the happiness, the nakedness. Like people are legitimately half naked. People are just wearing their swimming trunks, right? So
yeah.
there is people like I feel like she really went for it. She went for it, right? From the beginning of the rollout, right? All the way through the songs, then to the cover of the album, she went for it's sexy, it's nude, we're having fun, and it's a little bit of a moment. I felt like she was going for a little bit of a moment. Whenever I listen to this, honestly, I'm like, this should be your summer album. We were talking about summer songs, right?
Hmm.
For a little bit. I'm like, this is kind of just like a summer album. You just throw this on from like June 1st until September
Hmm.
1st. And I feel like this can rock for a very long time. And I think that the swimming pool and her swimming in the swimming pool is like solidifying that because when do you swim? In the summer, right?
Yes.
So I
Yes.
think that thematically, fantastic, like absolutely fantastic. And also I think the transitions are really good too. Like, we didn't mention that in the production, but I think the
Yes.
transitions between
Yes.
songs shows that like that jazz, hip hop, R&B, reggae, and I'm a piano, like they actually, even though that they're all like different genres of music, there is connective tissue between them, and she very easily swims between all of them, right? So I think that this is a phenomenal presentation, like phenomenal, like absolutely A1. And we
Mm.
should expect that from her, actually, considering her previous works, right?
No, 100%. I think this is what is to be expected from her. And thinking about how this affects her career, I think that this album is it fits kind of the change that's happened to her image online.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this may be one of the first full projects some people listen to of Janelle Monáe. Even though she is popular and a lot of people know who she is 100% one of those people. A lot of people know her face, her image, more than they know her music.
Mm-hmm.
So this album to kind of help kind of merge those things together, I think is a good project for that. And as well, I think that Janelle Monáe, maybe she realizes it, but I think that she's going to be looked at as, a sex symbol, an icon in that way in the future. And this album is kind of very emblematic of that. So I think this album is going to be a stamp in her career, just for the energy that it has.
Yeah, me too. I think that it also shows like a level of versatility, not only just music, but like image wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you spend your entire career in a tuxedo, you go to go from that to like basically nude is a huge
Mm-hmm.
shift. You're going from formal wear to swimwear, basically. And for it to sound incredible and for her to not shy away from it in any way, jumped in fully. Shows like the confidence in the lyrics, the confidence in self,
Mm-hmm.
like full package. It's full package of what's happening here. And I think it's also just shows like, her ability to make these like super complete projects is not limited to the sound. It's just limited to what
Yes.
she wants to make it about. Because you can be like Dirty Computer and what was the previous one before Dirty Computer? Um, what
With
was
his
the pre?
the Electric Lady.
Yeah, Electric Lady and the Arc Android, right? Like those are very, very different aesthetics to what we're getting right now, but they're still complete, right? Like those are complete projects. And I feel like this is just another complete project for her, but it just happens to look drastically different from everything else that was happening. But she can do it. And it's looking like, I don't want to say easily, but it didn't look hard to me. It didn't sound like she was trying to jump too crazy or trying to like really trying to get outside of her zone. I felt like she just existed and she knew how to wield the things that she was dealing with very effectively.
I don't think easily is crazy. I think this seemed like she got this off pretty smoothly. So
Yeah.
I don't think you're crazy for saying easily. I think I know the answer here, but we're gonna ask it anyways. Are you gonna be getting the vinyl? Is this a no skips?
This is absolutely a no skips for me. Like not it's like so easily a no skips.
Mm-hmm.
And a vinyl cop. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think this one can be played top to bottom, and also it's a summer vibe.
Yes.
And a nice summer vibe, you put on a record and just like let it rock. That's like summer incarnate, you know what I mean? For at least for a music nerd fan,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think so. What about you?
Both for me as well. This is one of probably the easier albums I had to listen to. Like this was just an easy play it
Yeah.
all the way through. Like I didn't have to think twice. And I think that this album is gonna be one of those that you will kind of always be able to do that. I
Hmm.
think that like it's not just right now. I think 2027, you throw this on in the middle of May, it's still gonna be a vibe. So that's a vinyl cop for me. I think all the sounds on here on vinyl will sound so full. So definitely a vinyl cop for me. But you
Yeah.
look at it, this whole project is her music. There are features on here.
Hmm.
Sometimes you get to see an album and you're like, okay, this is a Pharrell song. This is not
Yeah.
your song. It's Pharrell song. She doesn't have that on here, so I like that a lot. I wonder where we're gonna be in terms of scores. I hear a lot of love coming from your side. I like
Hmm.
this project a lot too. I started out as a hater my first couple listens. I even texted a friend of mine last night, and she said, "Listen to the project again. Let me know what you think." And I said, "I like it every time I listen."
Yeah.
And I think I was a hater to begin with. But where are you? Where are you with the score? What are you giving this album out of 10?
I think I'm gonna give it I'm gonna say 9 out of 10.
Oh wow, that's big
Yeah,
time.
I think that it's extremely good. Um, like I said, the features are kind of seamless. The writing is really good. Vocal performance, her voice sounds phenomenal. It's always sweet. It's always heavenly. And I never feel like nobody feels out of place. All the songs are really good. The hooks are catchy. Like a song like "No Better." It kind of has like I don't know what that horn is, but it sounds like it's a Jay-Z song, and I just can't place that horn. But yeah, like everything, like I like the samples. I feel like she's playing to her audience, at i.e. me, and pulling on the reggae samples that I'm like, oh, this is just from my childhood. I don't know, I don't have any real flaws with it, so I can't really like, I can't really fault it for anything. I think that is there one song like that's the difference between like a 9 and 10 for me is like, is there the one song that I'm like, you must listen to this,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I feel like it doesn't really. That's like the one thing that it's missing. It doesn't have like you gotta hear like it doesn't have like a pyramids or some or some shit like that, or like a blinding lights or like a Marvin's room. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like it doesn't have to be a hit, but it's got to be like this is kind of like a defining song for your career,
Yeah.
right? Or it just has like crazy creative value to it, right? And I think that's the only thing that it's missing. Otherwise, it would be a 10 out of 10 for me. I'm not lying to you.
Wow.
Yeah. So what about you?
I like this album a lot, but I think I'm not where you're at with calling it almost a perfect album. For
Mhm.
me, it's a 7.5. I
Wow.
think what I would give this album higher scores for, which I'm kind of taking scores away this time,
Mhm.
is I think this album is a lot better as an album than as single songs.
I
I think if
agree.
you're trying to put someone onto this project and we're like, listen to track 4 and 5, it wouldn't hit the same as listening to the full album Age of Pleasure. So for that reason, I'm giving it a 7.5 instead of an 8, because I think that's
Mhm.
important in terms of how people discover music now. Not everyone's Adriel and Demar. I'm sorry to tell you
That's
guys.
true.
And not everyone's Adriel and Demar. You're gonna get someone to listen to a project. You gotta have 3 songs to send them, and they better all hit. And I think she does have those, but I don't think it hits the same as a full project. So
I
seven and a
agree.
half for me.
I agree. You also think it doesn't have an edge. It's edgeless. Don't leave that part out. Don't try to.
I I I did think it's edgeless. I gotta figure out another way to say that because she's so bold on here and so sexual,
Yeah.
and it's hard to be so sexual and then call it edgeless at the same time. So
Hmm.
I gotta figure out what it is exactly I'm trying to say. But you're right. I do think there is something, I don't want to say missing, but there is that certain factor that this album will not be as well received as how good it is. So
Hmm.
I hope that I'm wrong. Let's hope that I'm wrong. I don't love being wrong a lot, but this is one time where I would love to be. But a 9 from you, 7.5 from me. Both gave this a
Hmm.
no skip, so you know what that means. Album mode people, please run this one back.
Yeah.
If somehow I want to know this, I'm sure that no one is like this, but then again, it's 2023. If anyone listens to our podcast or listen to the albums, this is not the album to do that for. Please go and listen to Age of Pleasure. You've made it all the way to the end. You guys know what to do. Leave a rating and a review. 5 stars, not a single star less. Big love to all our people over there on YouTube. Go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe. Make sure you follow us on the interwebs, Twitter at Album Mode Pod, TikTok at Album Mode Pod, and Instagram at Album Mode Pod. And of course, until next time, know yourself, know your worth.
Later days.